Hello friends, it is true that the world is imperfect. We live in both the best and worst of times. Best in what we have, worst in what we think we ought to have. This is the story of a person to be uncommon among uncommon people. Yes, it is a story of David Goggins. David Goggins was just another poor African-American boy who was underprivileged in his upbringing. He was born on 17 February 1975 into a poor black family in Buffalo, New York. His father was a violent pimp who beat him and his mother regularly until they left him. He was labeled with a learning disability because he could not read, a fact made even more pronounced by his stutter. On top of that, he would go on to develop asthma. Adverse childhood events like these should have led to obesity, mental illness, and poverty. Once his mother took him and his brother to relocate to Brazil, Indiana, he experienced more events that would culminate in him developing post-traumatic stress disorder. He received racially motivated threats and bullying from his peers. As a young man, he had almost zero confidence and self-worth. Even though his young mind begged for help, no one came. No social justice, affirmative action or divine hand gave him anything for free. You may find that sad, but the David Goggins today would look to that fact with pride and gratitude. After dropping out of school, he did not obtain a higher education or job qualification. He did not have a plan, and therefore no future. He later joined the army, but flunked out due to having sickle cell trait. Actually, as he would later admit, he flunked out due to cowardice. After his discharge, he became obese. He spent his days working menial labor jobs requiring little social interaction or skill. One notable job involved spraying for cockroaches in dirty restaurants after closing time. After coming home from work late one evening with a milkshake in hand, the young David Goggins came across an ad. On the television, there were young men his age going through Navy SEAL training. He saw fit and healthy men subjected to physical conditions akin to torture. Something clicked for David. It was fascinating to him why people would do this to themselves. All throughout his life, he had been running away from discomfort, yet discomfort had always seemed to find him. At this point, he made a choice that instead of running away from the pain, fear, and uncertainty, he sprinted towards them like they were the best things for him. He challenged himself to embrace the darkness. He quit his cockroach spraying job and applied to join the Navy SEAL with a singular purpose to take one of the weakest men that God had ever created and make him one of the strongest. At first nobody took him seriously, and many laughed in his face. "You are black and you are fat," was the message he received. None of it fazed him, as he trained to lose over 100 pounds in a mere 3 months' time. That hard work paid off, and he was finally admitted to SEAL. That was not the end of his story. David Goggins went on to complete multiple SEAL Hell Weeks, in which he endured sleep deprivation, cold, and psychological abuse from instructors, much like what he saw on television, but even more full-colored because it was real life. Where most people do not even finish, David Goggins finished that toughest of weeks of SEAL training multiple times. However, his body kept rolling him back. First it was double pneumonia, then a kneecap fracture. Imagine going through hell with your spirit intact and your body broken, only to be told you needed to go through hell again and again. Where most men who were more privileged than him quit, Mr. Goggins kept going. He came out of the other side a stronger man. But more importantly, he came out as David Goggins, the hero he was destined to be. David Goggins would go on to challenge himself in ways unimaginable to the normal human being. His list of accomplishments would eventually include completing over 60 ultramarathons while raising money for fallen soldiers' children. He would complete Delta Force training. He would obtain the Guinness World Record for most pull-ups performed in 24 hours. He would go through multiple heart surgeries for a congenital heart defect and not skip a beat, pun intended. He has become one of the best live recruiters for the US Navy by orating his story and message across the country as a man who had a stutter and who was labeled as educationally challenged. Thus, David Goggins' story is an inspiration for all of us who are looking to challenge ourselves mentally and physically and change our lives in the process. Friends, everybody comes to a point in their life when they want to quit, but it's what you do at that moment that determines who you are.